Hello, everybody. Jim here to remind you that this week's podcast, episode 353 of the Weird Science DC Comics podcast, is a Patreon-only exclusive show. We do that every time there is an annuals week, which there was last week, and this is something that we end up doing each and every time that happens. It only happens a couple times a year, though, but you can go and listen to that right now at patreon.com/Weird Science, where me and Eric talk about Flash number 768, Future State Superman versus Imperious Lex number 3, Batman Catwoman number 4, and Strange Adventures number 9. It ended up being about 2.5 hours. And yeah, you can go and for as little as $1 a month, listen to that podcast and a bunch more. I'll talk about that in a second. But what you're going to listen to right now is actually something that was a Patreon exclusive spotlight. We talk about this. These are the spotlights that are picked by the badasses, the Get Fresh crew, beep, boop. And we ended up talking a couple of weeks ago, Joker number 1 and Superman number 28. And so we'll, pull the curtain back and we'll let you listen and give you an idea of what we do on the spotlight. Pretty similar to what we do on the regular podcast, but we're a little looser and stuff like that. So listen to that. And if you like what you hear, please go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Weird Science, and you get a ton in return. Like I said, you end up even if you went just to listen to episode 353, go with $1 a month, whatnot. You'll even get our Book of the Month podcast, where this month of April, we're going to be talking about Robert Kirkman's Invincible. I don't know if you've heard about it. It seems kind of hot right now. Also, we have a DC Comics Character of the Month podcast that we will be talking about, Connor Hawke. Those are just two things, just at the lowest level. We end up having over 60 to 70 podcast episodes a month. Things like a manga podcast, things like the Walking Dead podcast, a bonus Star Wars podcast, a movie podcast, where this coming up week, me and my man Michael G are going to be reviewing the Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's taking me a while to get through it. I have attention span problems, but I'm going to get through it. We're going to have a review on that. We also have a cartoon comic book podcast deal things, all these things. You just have to go check it out. But yeah, I hope that you also enjoy this spotlight. Like, it's shining bright. I ended up shifting my spotlight over, like you said last week, and it took me all week to decide to do that. My head hurts, and the light was shining bright, Eric, and it was hurting me. Also, I realized tonight that my cat does not want to come down in this basement anymore, and it's starting to worry me.
Nobody does.
That the cat doesn't want to come down. It's just, I think that the cat's even like, really, like, that shithole, you've made it even worse. I mean, it's
like
so
to imagine
bad.
it's like one of those things where animals can like detect when before an earthquake happens.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, you take a canary into a cave to see if it's going to affect the animal doesn't want to go down there because it's just full of death and despair.
Yes. Canary in a Coal Mine, Eric.
Yeah.
That's a good song by The Police, by the way. Were you aware of that?
I'm not a huge police guy.
You're not a huge police guy only when they come to your door and bang and say that you're going to get collared?
I'm really not a huge police guy at that point.
I'd say they're like, we're going to collar you, and like, what? Pop the collar, all right? You pop the collar, and then they just beat the shit out of you.
Ah!
They beat the crap out of you. Oh my god! And then you hit them back. Domestic violence, Eric. See, it all works out.
No, that's
plus resisting arrest and assault. Yeah, it's everything. Then, but yeah, we end up with this week.
I
not
invited him to my house, called him my brother, and hit him in the face. Why is this not domestic? Why is there assaulting a police officer?
What that seems like is the start of some vampire troubles, Eric. Don't invite the vampires into the house.
They're all vampires.
Yes. So you end up here, spiritual vampires or energy vampires.
No,
Which one, Eric? Do you like the energy?
Everybody.
Okay.
I don't invite anybody in my house.
Is that what you're saying about Jess? Is that it?
Hear me, Jess?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness gracious, Jess. You're a blood-sucking succubus. But we're here for some books, Eric. We're here for some DC Comics as I hear my kids dribbling a basketball upstairs, and I'm going to strangle them. But we've had
outside of the Black Mold Studios.
Outside, yeah. Right above the Black Mold Studios. And I'm telling you, I told them when I came down, they were dribbling.
Up to no good.
I am. I'm going to go up there like a vampire, Eric, and then I'm going to take care of them. Where's
suck
that
you
cat?
off, kids.
I'm going to make them. I'm going to make them come down here. That's what I'll make them do.
Nah.
It is a wreck. Right now, it is so bad down here. Yes. So we ended up last week, even Ruben, he commended us
Even
on a
Ruben?
fine podcast. He said that we were on our game, Eric. And I said, it helps when you like the books. That actually does pick things up. Me and you feed off of each other's energy like energy vampires, right?
We got done last week's main podcast, and I thought to myself afterwards, I'm like, that was a really good episode, which in my mind means that everybody else is going to hate it. But thankfully, that's not the case.
No, people seem to like the enthusiasm, Eric. Even at the beginning, I figured it was going to be a positive podcast, and you seemed down. When I said to you, like, what's going on? You sound down. And then you picked it up, Eric. You grabbed a hold of it and picked it up, and it was fun. And we have a lot of fun. We even had comments about the Batman Cave, which we had a lot of fun. So with this coming forward into this week, I had 2 reviews of the main books. You had 2, and you didn't quite like yours as much as I liked mine. And I thought, oh my God, this Batman Urban Legends, Eric, it's so good. It's not a perfect 10, but of what we have been getting, it really excited me. And also the idea that it's Chip Zdarsky, and you haven't had a lot of Chip Zdarsky lately because you ended up leaving the Marvel. And I wanted you to read some Chip Zdarsky so you can enjoy him as much as I do on the Daredevil over there at Marvel. So I was really happy that is going to be on the regular podcast because that will spread the love. Plus, with only 2 books, it helps when one's a little oversized. We may end up getting, an hour and 10-minute podcast instead of a 30-minute one, and that might help out too. But with that, these books that we're talking about here, I mean, one's, the Joker and the other's a joke. And that's what I say.
Oh, my.
So when we go into this, I want to, oh, my God, he doesn't go for that baloney. I ended up thinking to myself, okay, is this one of those things where with this Philip Kennedy Johnson fella, can I crow a little yet? Because I said that PKJ, I was warning people about PKJ and saying that I've read a bunch of things recently at Marvel that I thought were garbage, like the French would say, and that I want. No, but I don't want to crow about anything. First off, he can turn it around. But I want it to be good, though. I mean, I would rather have it be good. Yeah, I might be pissed for about a month or so that I was wrong, Eric, but eventually kind of want to talk about good books and in a way that this isn't like a Tom King deal. We hated Tom King's run, and it was, our duty to tell people why. Yeah, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like we hated him because we wanted to hate him or we decided earlier. It's just we were angry because we thought that we could easily see something wrong that everybody else was loving. And so we were there to ruin their dreams. That was what we did. But we were explaining, you know what I mean? But with the Superman, this Superman, and this is why I even said at one point to Jay from Canada, like, I do not like Tom King as a writer, but I can't say that he's not interesting to talk about. And the books themselves, even the stuff that we hated, there's a fun time at least to talk about, and it's different in his own little way. This Superman, though, it's just nothing. And that's not fun. That's not fun to talk about. It's not fun to, oh my God, we're going to have to put the Philip Kennedy Johnson books all on the Patreon because you end up where most people, for the most part, I see what this is. There's no big push either way. It's just nothingness. And then I read your review and I'm like, Eric thinks it's nothingness. And I don't know what's I ended up reading your review before, it came out. And hoping that I hit it and it's like a 9.5. Oh my God, he was saving everything for this. And then I go, I'm like, yep, that's what I thought it was going to be.
Everything is against it right away because I'm telling you, there's definitely some fans out there with Phil Hester's art because it does remind me of stuff that I read as a child growing up in the 90s. I'm like a teenager in the 90s. But the idea,
really?
I'm a child in the 2010s. But the whole idea of this, I'm like, there's not a nostalgia factor to me because the reason I read Phil Hester as a kid and didn't mind is because it's all I had. Like, I had a limited amount of stuff. If he was on a book, he's on a book. Let's hopefully we like the story, but there's just not enough push with the story doing anything new or original with mediocre art all the way through. Why would you do this right out the gate?
Do you think that, like you said, it's nothing new. We're going to say it. You'll probably mention it in your blurb, so I don't want to go too far into that. But did you even find it interesting? That's my big problem. I didn't even find it interesting, except maybe intriguing.
But the ideas behind it and how we're going to get to it, I don't like the way we're doing that.
Yeah, I didn't even find it that interesting about a deal where, and I saw it even in the slang, the talk about, oh my God, Superman's going to die. You only have a little. Well, I kind of think he won't. And
whatever.
So
I read all of Future State. His at the end of the goddamn time, John. You've been reading your history wrong.
Yeah, really. And with that, too, the idea like setting it up to make it almost feel like I should be oh, my God, I can disbelief, suspension of disbelief and think, okay, this might mean something else. Or this. No, it's just a lot of nothingness after
I just like
3 issues of nothingness that we had with Future State.
One of my biggest complaints of people that really, like the one thing that people really liked about PKJ's freaking, House of L book in the Future State, where the idea is it's butted up right in my mind with the timeline of the Legion of Superheroes where John was a member. So in my mind, if you just look outside the window, maybe just read a book, do a text message, something along the lines, you would know that your pappy and a bunch of your freaking relatives are still alive in the year 3001.
Yeah, and when you have all that going on, even, I don't know, 3004.
Sitting here, I'm thinking of the 31st century is all I was trying to say.
Well, you had to get a little over so that there's it's almost like us with midnight. Is midnight the end of a day or the beginning of a new day? And but with this all, it's just the idea, even like the House of L, where people did seem to like it. I also think that a lot of people were down on those first 2 issues of Future State with the Worlds at War. Ended up wanting to like something by this guy before we go off into this. So when they did like it, and it was one of those things though that it was interesting character designs, things like that. It seemed like it had some creative juices flowing. You just didn't have enough time.
Character design. You have random freaking face characters
with I'm telling you,
you have random face characters with a suit on with a freaking Superman shield on their chest. That's all
Seriously, when you end up going to the House of Heroes and they have all the people go nuts, and it's just them standing around. So I understand why. Yeah, I mean, and what do you get from it? Oh my God, look at Fastback. You don't get much more. So it had that feel, and I wanted some sort of story instead of, So when you get to this, I just seem to think that people in general, unless they're on Twitter or Reddit, they want to be positive about things, especially things that you buy. We talk about this all the time. We used to buy. I got some of the worst games that have ever been made.
Do you know how long I played Bayou Billy because I decided to get that for my birthday?
Yeah, and that's the only thing you could afford for a year. Me and you both were poor growing up, so if you buy that, it sucks. You'll never admit it to yourself. You'll sit there and make all sorts of ideas with it. And so when I see these reviews and anybody talking, and they do say, well, at least it's not Bendis, or it's a breath of fresh air after Bendis, I see the same things.
Growing up where I could only afford like a handful of books, and by a handful, I mean at tops 3 each freaking month, I would seem like, because I would never be able to get back to the shop. And it was a crazy time for me growing up where if Phil Hester was on art, yeah, this looks all right. But now as a grown-ass man, like, I've seen some better stuff, and I don't need to have Phil Hester art, especially when you're coming in hot with a new writer on Superman for a new era of DC Comics.
Yeah, and then you start off, and we should go to your blurb first, and then we'll get into this proper.
Superman number 29, written by PKJ and Sean Lewis, with art by Phil Hester, Eric Gapster, with Hi-Fi, Dave Sharp, Sammy Basir, and Ulysses Areola. We're getting our first look at PKJ's take on a present-day Superman, and feels a lot like Bendis' take on a present-day Superman. Our hero now, instead of dealing with Dr. Glory opening up dimensional breaches with Star Labs, is now dealing with Amanda Waller opening up dimensional breaches with Star Labs. And while he tries to get you with some emotional father-son moments, it all kind of comes off flat for what should we be dealing with John's abnormal upbringing, plus a Bibbo backup.
Yeah, a Bibbo. And you love Bibbo. You're not going to love this backup so much, right? And the idea of this
Bibbo.
I've seen some people talking about this as well, and I fully agree. The idea that, okay, this is a nice little thing to have John and focus on John, whatnot, but they seem to forget that Bendis was doing that as well. But also, I've seen some, like, yeah, it's nice to focus on John, but it sucks that we have to focus on this John because of what Bendis ended up doing, what he ended up doing, just imagine, and we'll just, try to not talk so much about Bendis in this, but Bendis ended up aging up John, which did nothing for anything, including that stupid Legion of Superheroes book that didn't even last 2 trades.
Of course
and we're
didn't,
stuck
because
with him.
The Legion of Superheroes. I don't know why everybody keeps trying to take it like, look, I know you want to diversify what you're doing at DC Comics. You need to bring back some other heroes. Silver Age heroes far out here. It's like, you might even get an Ambush Bug 6-issue mini coming out because you need to keep these characters relevant. But when you come out with the Legion of Superheroes and you're going to make drastic changes to the main DC continuity for this book, it's not a good idea because it's never going to sell and it's not going to continue very long.
And so now we're stuck with it. This basically is like, a Chip Kelly on the Eagles making all these changes to eventually go, 4-12.
We'll get there.
You don't need that. You don't
Trust
need
the
that
process.
shit. And then you end up rebuilding. And this is the start of maybe a rebuilding, even though PKJ said that he's going to go fully with it.
Talking about it's like, all right, 2 more years, maybe we built back up to the point where we get to the freaking finals.
Never. Because we're here, and you have this deal, and again, it looks very cartoony. You said it's a very dated style, the way that it's drawn. I'm not going to say that it's horrible. It just doesn't seem very exciting. It doesn't feel big. It doesn't feel like it really feels like what now that Phil Hester's art. Unfortunately, this style. It pretty much looks like a digital first. We say a lot about the things, and we say about the writing and the deal. This fully feels like a full digital book. It doesn't feel big enough.
Not only that of the whole idea of how it looks, but the way it's presented, where you just have Superman and Superboy fighting random-ass ultra-dimensional aliens in space with no dialogue and just narration talking about the idea that
why is it always just narration with this guy?
They're always immortal in our mind until we reach a certain point where we realize they can be hurt. They're not the gods we put up on a pedestal. They can die. And to have this, narration, this whole thing going through where it just goes on and on with page after page of Superman fighting these things with Superboy, and even just having Amanda Waller in the background, no dialogue. She's just texting her Star Labs team on a satellite that opened this breach and then closed this breach to say, so did you get the readings on here? Is Superman affected by these breach monsters? Yeah, Superman is, but that's Superboy. No, not so much. All right, then open it up again.
All right, open it up.
Text messages.
Yeah, that's what you get.
And even then, when you get to the whole thing where you want to have the family, the Superman family together again for what feels like the first time in a long time, just doing some downtime stuff. We're sitting at the Kent's apartment in Metropolis. Lois Lane is snuggled up to freaking Clark Kent. We got John on his tummy, kicking his legs back, the elbows up to his freaking knees. Right there. He's watching TV. And it really, the way that the art presents this, and plus having no dialogue and no narration besides for John idolizing his parents and the idea that they're immortal or just his father. It looks like Lois is annoyed that there's too much noise going on in the house because that's what we have is musical notes from the TV and her looking
pissed
annoyed.
Off. I think she's pissed off at John because he fell asleep and they're supposed to be having, family time. And the idea that John's narration and this omnipotent narration even that sometimes feels a little off of him talking about the idea of when you finally see your father or mother stumble a little, that they're not the greatest thing ever. They're not and that is, it's tough. While you end up seeing Superman get hurt, then they go back to the deal, and it's just to set up that he's become a teenager and we don't have any connection because he did that in the space, even though he really did in a volcano. But they're really pushing away from that. And like, you really grew up with that Legion of Superheroes you were with for a month.
They're really
my God. And with that was always
now.
With them, right?
With the DC Infinite Frontier that we're dealing with now, it seems like we're pushing weird things. Like we have the entire time where we're like, let's stay away from that, Ultraman volcano thing. Lead towards more of the crazy grandpa in outer space kind of thing, which they do here. Almost like they're doing Joker as well, with the idea is that Joker really pushed James Gordon Jr.
He really
to go in bed.
James Gordon Jr.
Did he really?
Yeah, was that it? Was it? Nah, I don't know. But yeah, well, with that,
he developed a split personality out of nowhere. It was the craziest damn thing, Jim.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's actually. Yeah. Oh, really? I thought it was, it was Castellucci that should be blamed for all that bullshit when we get to it. But when you end up doing all this stuff there, it is like the idea, okay, there's John. He's going to be able to spend some time with his parents finally, and he falls asleep. And she's angry.
Now,
and then they end up having
angry about John falling asleep during family time, or is she concerned because you see the little musical notes in the background for whatever's playing on the TV? And if you look at the little sliver of TV, it looks like grown-ass John John is watching cartoons and might have the mind of a child, and she's worried about the progression of her son.
That too, but I think they've all decided to watch that, and he fell asleep, so I guess he's not there.
When I was 17.
Yeah, but they're all having fun at first, and then he ends up falling asleep.
Is on.
And then I just think that this is supposed to be the idea that he has grown and they weren't there. Now he's a grown-ass man, as you and Logan say. And I know, but that's my problem.
But not really.
And
the thing is, we haven't dealt with it. We've said it over and over again, but never really dealt with it.
And here's where I'm going to start getting angry at things that I usually get angry with, but now PKJ has joined the club here of don't give me bullshit story of nothingness and then go, hey, let's play the pine cones. And then people are like, this is just like the same garbage that we had back when, remember when Atomic Skull got taken down in the Batman Superman book, Joshua Williamson, let's have the snowball fights. This doesn't do it for me anymore. This sort of thing where you end up with the pine cones. We used to play the game, the pine cones. Oh yeah, I like stat games. I don't need to have.
I don't know what you're talking about, Daddy-O.
And this is what Bendis would do. Bendis would end up having. He'd end up having these little moments where, oh my God, look at that! That's so cool to see a father and son play with the pine cones. I'm like, were you poor? I saw you people growing up. You weren't that bad off. You could play with an
entire farm,
a freaking pine cone.
Then you moved on up to the east side to a high-rise apartment in the sky.
I swear to God, I thought that you ended up having Superman throw a live beehive at John. Like, catch, son! And now it's prank wars. We're on.
Jackass.
Superman
discovers Jackass.
I didn't need that. And so they're like, oh, man, yeah, this was great. We used to play the game. Hey, Dad, I don't remember the rules. Well, the rule was I throw the pine cone at your ass and you throw it back. Oh, yeah, I remember now. But then, it wasn't that long ago. It was for me.
Dad, I don't remember. I'm sorry. It's been a long time. That 7 years I spent in a volcano eating raw pigs with a crying bad version of you. Didn't really play a lot of pine cones, Daddy.
It's like pine cones. We didn't have those while I was growing up, Daddy. We played Let's Abuse the Boy is what we did. I didn't get to play.
Imagine John should be coming back, or at least there should have been some, like we talk about this all the time, but he should be Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son for everything that he's dealt with in that whole freaking Earth 3. Then going into the future, not really realizing his feelings for Saturn Girl and what this means. I have a funny feeling in my pants. Get away from us. Go back to your present time, Grossy.
Yeah, like, oh my God, does she have cooties?
That's how Legion ended, right?
I think it was. And then he came back here, and then he's like, Pinecone, I'm looking for Goldie. Is Goldie around? I want to friggin' heat vision his ass again. I mean, really. And so you end up having all this nonsense.
Issue 2.
Nothing happens, though. Nothing happens.
Well, not only does nothing happen, but going back to my whole thing, the idea that we're dealing with the same shit over again, where the thing is, instead of Dr. Glory doing dimensional breaches with the evil Star Labs, we have Amanda Waller, and for whatever reason, while you have a Star Labs satellite that's opening and closing these breaches, that Superman's fighting these, he's waving goodbye. He is not concerned at all about Star Labs and what may be going on here. He's just a goddamn idiot flying around while John talks about his daddy in his mind.
Yep. And then ends up, Daddy, I was in the futures, and they said that you was going to die. I'm like, really? Did they ever get around to telling you what exactly Damian's going to do? Because I want to find out about that, too. And like, it's coming up. The date, it's coming up, Daddy. You're not going to last longer. Oh, let's go to Kalex. Beep, boop, boop. Affirmative. That's all you get.
And then you see, gold. I don't trust you, John.
Open up the thing again, the rift, and there it is. There's a monster coming up that doesn't even look that good or exciting. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And maybe we'll end up getting, some of that other nonsense with Dr. Glory, and who knows? But yeah, it
feels weird for Amanda Waller to be our big bad of this, unless we actually are having our DC writers and creators and stuff like that, where they are talking to each other about what they're doing in the books to make sure the Infinite Frontier is really feeling a connected universe where she's opening breaches, talking about the idea of what we dealt with in Suicide Squad, a future state, where she goes to Earth 3. So maybe she wants to know more about this. But Rick Flag.
Or even if this would be something that even would tie into Connor, maybe because they were hanging. I don't know.
But even at the beginning of our new Suicide Squad, Rick Flag was talking about the idea of interdimensional kidnappings and stuff like multiversal kidnapping. So it seems from the Suicide Squad book, she has already been doing breaches like this. And who knows what kind of breaches we're dealing with, because this doesn't seem like a multiverse. This just seems like I'm going to open up an ultra-dimensional portal to monsters.
This feels like, remember, I kept saying that I don't think Bendis understands. Now, who knows with the new Omniverse and stuff like that, but Bendis would always call dimensions. He'd never say Earths, because he never understood that, it seemed. So in Welcome to Earth, when you end up here, they say at one point, like, oh, we've had a bunch of, dimensional rifts opening up and things like that. And you could kind of guess that would be from Bendis's run when they were with Dr. all that. But even then, I'm like, I don't know. I kind of want it more of a issue that if you're going to make a mission statement, like it seems like PKJ wants to do all the time here, make the mission statement of, I have some kick-ass ideas for stories, not just, oh my God, Superman might die. And
well, not only that,
dimensions.
the thing is, that's something that's fine in my mind. If you want to explore that, at least somewhere to go. The thing that I really took away from this that I find interesting is the idea that not only is Amanda Waller trying to test Superman, which feels like she should have done a while ago when she was doing the old JLA, but throughout all of her history, because everything matters now. But now that we have this thing, like, why do these breach monsters hurt Superman and why do they not hurt John? That's what I'm interested in at this point in time. Like,
I just think
is
that
it a
you're going to go with the idea.
And is John not susceptible to magic?
Or I think it's just going to be spelled out that because Bendis, I think at one point even claimed, oh, John's that much better. And we never really found out. I think that it's just going to end with that. But we go to Bibbo then. We go to the old Bibbos, right?
And that's the thing, as I'm sitting here reading this book, and I didn't want to go, like, usually I want to do my due diligence and jump into all of this shit. I'm telling you, I read 44 goddamn issues of House of Mystery based on a hunch I had that didn't pan out this week. But the idea that Bibbo seems to be working for the Daily Planet now. Man on the street, man of the people, Bibbo Bibowski here, who was actually working with Jamie Olsen. I'm like, was this a part of the, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen at the end?
No,
because
this isn't the writer who did that, so I don't expect it to be anyway. Sean Lewis is just writing this Bibbo story, and I just think all they're doing
based
here,
off of what they did at the end of that, the whole thing where Jimmy Olsen is the owner of the Daily Planet. He can hire Bibbo to do stuff and do all these different things, but even when you go into this whole thing, Tales of Metropolis, Bibbo, and you have Jimmy Olsen narrating at the beginning, welcome to Metropolis, turned from international city to intergalactic one by Superman. All this change could make a city lose the way it sees itself. We need an unexpected voice to remind us who we are. Who could be that voice, you ask? Bibbo. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, that seems really weird for this, sailor guy who just loves the Supermans, who has the ace of clubs, coming to a movie premiere with a freaking starlet, at least looking wise, starlet on his arm and a limousine, all this stuff. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And is he supposed to actually do a movie review based on what he's seeing here? I really don't know what Bibbo's job is here, except for he loves the Supermans.
He loves, and I think the way I got it was that's all he does is he's going to be writing fluff pieces about Superman and how great Superman is. And I am going back and looking. It doesn't look like Bibbo was in that at all, as far as I can see going through the character list of who appeared in the Jimmy Olsen book. So I think that this is just a new deal, and it may have been a classic deal at one point. I'm sure that they had Bibbo write some column about Superman.
I guess I don't recall it.
No, but I'm saying it maybe for a couple issues or something in the 70s or something like that. The thing, though, is Bibbo's a dumbass. I mean, such a dumbass, because first off, you end up he's being duped by the projector, Eric.
The projectress.
The projectress and her lizard man that's there. And so you have this where even Jimmy sees, like, why is there defogs going from those two? Bibbo has no idea.
Bibbo, your girlfriend just turned to smoke and flew away.
Yeah.
What?
And there is like the idea, like Bibbo, oh, poor Bibbo, he's not the handsomest man, and whatnot. So he's really excited but he seems to think that he at least, is on the up and up here. Like he's not thinking that she's duping him at any point. Then he has to just defend her honor, where at the end, I don't even know why they're really doing this full out like that.
We have Projectress and Deadstream have come from galaxies away to mess with Superman. And the way to mess with Superman in their mind is go after the people that love him. So we're going to go Projectress is going to make herself just look like a woman who, and the thing is, it's not much of a change from how she actually looks.
No, she loses those face tattoos.
Yeah, she just loses the face tattoos. I bet Post Malone wishes he had a Projectress. But this whole thing is, I'm going to go over here and pretend that I'm into Bibbo. I need you, Lizard Man, to transform into a handsome man who starts hitting on me, and Bibbo loses cool where he wants to fight you, and then we're going to go away.
Yeah, and then
Bibbo.
he's going to throw you. He's going to throw you into the fountain, which will give you better powers. Where he'll turn off the water, Bibbo. And with this, I need to see like what happened before this to get the projectress. Like, did she date him for 3 months to set this up? Is this the long con? Did she say at one point, "You don't want to know how far I'll go"? Because you end up where he seems to really be like, this isn't a first date. It seems, and it's just there and. It makes no damn sense. It's terrible. He ends up there watching this movie, like you said. We don't know why. Why
he is Bibbo going to a movie premiere in a limousine with his date that seems like he's sitting there the entire time? God damn it, I'm Bibbo Bibowski. How is it this hot dame over here is into me at all? I don't understand. Bibbo.
Yeah, Bibbo. And then you end up where they go. So is he writing this column? Seems to be making him the big to-do. I don't know what's going on, but with the spell out of Jimmy, even like, oh, we used to be, the city of tomorrow, but now we're galactic, all this. So let's go back to writing an editorial column as that's the big to do.
Well, that's the thing is at the end, we get these bad guys going away. It's like, I don't understand this. I'm sorry, I don't understand. This guy came from nowhere. Dolores turned in the air and this Jimmy. I think they targeted you, Bibbo. Why? The common man in Metropolis. If they can get you to see things that aren't there, who says they couldn't do it to everybody? What
does that mean?
Would you write about this, Bibbo?
Yeah.
It's the type of thing we need to share. So,
yeah.
Okay. So, my first article. Most of you out there aren't going to ever be as tough as Superman. He ain't ever going to be as important as the big guy. But stuff is happening on the streets. Stuff we can't be bothering Superman with no more. We got to take some responsibility for ourselves. No matter what we're going through, foreclosed homes to broken hearts, we got to stand up. I think the universe might be coming for us. It's your call. Bibowski. I'm just sitting there. He's like writing that this is to you, Jimmy, because he keeps hitting that fucking signal. He's like, oh my God, I got a broken heart. I don't think Jimmy is the best owner of the Daily Planet. I think he's making some bad calls right off the bat. Just this, though. Okay, you set up, I'm just going to go through this as a generalized deal. You set up Bibbo as a star who gets limos to go to movies with a starlet that he may or may not know before this, but seems to be okay with. But then it twists and turns around to say, they targeted you because you were the common man. Right about it. See things, right about it. I could just might be able to make all of us see things than uncommon men. And with that, it was an illusion, a projection that he saw. So it really didn't tie into being the common man. It was actually a dupe with a power set. He's like, I don't know about use. I'm the common man's, and I saw this lizard guy. Oh my goodness! Well, I'm saying, and the thing is, when he gets done writing his little. What is that? With this typewriter. I'm telling you, the city was shrinking it up. A 4-sentence editorial. But he's like this. You got the bad guys at the end. He did what you hoped. Now their champions gather. Time to see what Bibbo, Olsen, and the rest of the city are made of. I'm like, yeah. Champions, huh? I'm like, you guys are setting your sights so low. You are this now guy looks like Z-grade villains. Look at him. Yeah. Oh my God. They're not even that. I mean, really. And then Bibbo. And then it has the audacity to say at the end, to be continued. I don't need that shit. Yeah. No. Bibbo's drinking. He spilled one of the beers there. He's also gotten a Mountain Dew. He's gotten whiskey to write a 3-sentence article. He has a hole in his sock. He also looks to have possibly a condom on the table there next to that glass of water, or that was just his tumbler. He's throwing all these, failed attempts at this fucking bullshit article he wrote. I don't know that he's the best to be doing. Then Bibbo. It looks like that he has a thing where he has a book thing with Dula there on the book. Is it Dula or Dulla? It's D-U-L-L-A, and the thing about that is it almost appears to be like they've delivered his books that are going to go out. It all looks the same. I don't get it. I just don't get what's going on here. Just to have Bibbo in here is not enough to say, oh my God, that was really cool. It was bullshit. It was. This whole issue was just a lot of nothingness on top of nothingness. All right, look, the thing is, I just simply wrote in Dulla in the Google right here, just because maybe this is something that more learned people know that I don't, but just typing it in here, it's like this. Dulla, what was Bibbo reading about? Dulla may refer to an organ, a pink organ in the throats of camels displayed out of the mouth during courtship.
Bibbo. He's writing an expose. Bibbo. Yeah, so what did we get here? Not much. Not much
you got
of anything.
A 5.5 out of 10 for me because I did like the Bibbo art. Didn't care for the story.
The art was good. Yeah.
Didn't like the art in the Superman story, but saw some things in there that might be cool if they're done well. But from what I get out of this first issue by PKJ, I don't expect them to be.
Yeah, he's a big narrator guy. He loves that narration. Nobody talks, and you really don't progress much, and that's kind of what I saw.
Most we've gotten out of Superman all these months now is, want to play the pine cones?
You want to play the pine cone baseballs? I don't know the rules. I wasn't
Nobody
grown
does.
Up ears.
It was a nonsense game that you played that I hated, but now I find it endearing because I miss time with you.
Those are the days I miss when we call you Simple John. We need those back. But yeah, I'm going to go 5.5 as well. I almost went 6, but I'm looking back at it. I need more. I need something. And again, you're going from this deal. I don't need a breath of fresh air.
Book where they put in a backup of Bibbo that didn't make any sense to me at all after reading that Superman. I was so mad.
No, not at all. Not at all. Just to almost give you the idea, well, the people in Metropolis are going to have to tighten up that belt and start doing things on their own. Bibbo. But
you can't have the Superman help us all the time, everybody.
But then John's there. But we have the next book, which is thankfully better.
The Joker, #1, written by James Tynion IV and Sam Johns, with art by Gilliam March, Arif Prianto, Tom Napolitano, Mirka Andolfo, Romulo Fajardo Jr., and Ariana Mayer. It's time for a new ongoing featuring our clown prince of crime. Or actually, we have a new ongoing called Joker, where former Commissioner... I don't know what I was trying to write here. Or actually, we have a new ongoing called Joker, where former Commissioner Gordon is our main focus. As he has a mysterious benefactor who wants him to hunt down and kill the boogeyman of Gotham City. Plus a punchline backup. Yeah,
punchline. But what's with these backups there? They're not hitting as well. But you end up with this, with the story with the Joker, and a lot of people were thinking, what are we going to do with this? We just had Joker
ongoing. Jesus Christ, what are you doing here? And yeah, it's weird that it's called the Joker, but it feels like a way better idea for a story than just having a book that features the Joker.
Yeah, it'd be funny if it was called Commissioner, featuring the Joker. But no, I like this. I actually like it. I think I might like it a little more than you. When you end up even seeing like the prologue and this idea that in Chicago he did take down a bunch of pieces of crap. That's why he ended up getting a promotion, but then getting shoved off to Gotham.
But he turned in bad cops, which got him pushed off to Gotham City. That's what he always does. Yeah.
So they pushed him off to Gotham.
Is my biggest problem, where I do enjoy the idea of this story, but when you take the majority of it to catch everybody up on Commissioner Gordon and who he is and what he does, it feels a little padded in that regard. It's like,
I don't know. I like the start.
When we talked about Batman 106, where I did enjoy the catch up that we got here to see the new dynamic that's going on that James Tynion has created, I enjoyed that because you're going to bring a bunch of new readers on. You're going to do all this stuff. And I needed to be caught up after Future State and all this other stuff to know exactly where we stood in the world of Gotham City. But when this just starts out right out of the gate, I'm like, let me tell you about Jim Gordon. Even where they seem to fudge it, like, yes, the Joker has been involved with James Gordon Jr., but the idea that he's the one that pushed James Gordon Jr. over the edge for the kid to kill himself, essentially. And now Jim Gordon's all upset because then we have to find a reason for Jim Gordon beyond the Barbara Gordon connection to be pissed off at the Joker. I'm like, you're fudging things a little bit in my mind, plus giving me a lot of recap of things that I actually know about. So maybe you're new readers. It'd be better.
I actually like this because I think they could have went even further, because a lot of the Jim Gordon Jr. stuff also had to do with the Batman Who Laughs. They obviously don't want to get into that.
No, I understand that, but when you say like that is more poignant in my mind than saying, now if you tied it in where this was a Batman who was the Joker to make it say that. But when you say it's just the Joker did this, I'm like,
I'm just going because at the one point he was down and out from the Batman Who Laughs. I'm talking about Jim Gordon Sr. Yeah. And he ended up in the last thing, well, at the point he wasn't, because he was just drifting around. And when you ended up having Jim Gordon Jr. actually, kill himself, or did Batgirl end up pushing him the way he was looking at? I'm saying the way he would know. The idea of it was that, remember, you ended up having Jim Gordon Jr. pretending things and trying to twist into that whole Joker War stuff. And I think that maybe you can go with that. That's what Jim Gordon knew. He also would think that Barbara not Barbara, but Batgirl still did it as well. And I just think that it is kind of forced to push it ahead. But I didn't mind this when you see him and this guy, this old cop comes to him and he's like,
Danny Ryan.
This guy. And his dad was like an Al Capone cop that took, one of the good ones. And he ends up asking him.
Old school legacy cop sitting in a cop bar talking about cop things.
This guy's been kind of a piece of shit as far as Gordon knew. He said all I saw him was taking naps at his desk. But he ends up having a story where at the beginning of his career, he ended up coming across pretty much the demon.
No, he was older than Jim Gordon is at this point in time when he first saw his boogeyman eating the face of a girl on the floor.
No, he looks pretty tough right there. He looks like a tough guy right there. It was that,
I was just
with
a
the
few
deal.
years older than you when I saw the devil. He was
but
eating
again,
the
Jim
face
Gordon
off a
at this
17-year-old
point is
girl.
a young dude.
Yeah.
I'm saying Jim Gordon's young here, so he was still a young dude here because this is when he was in Chicago. He's a young fella, Gordon. So yeah, maybe he was 28 at that point, but he ended up, seeing this and didn't shoot the guy. And he should have. He should have ended up shooting him in the face. Don't go by procedures. Don't go by being good or bad.
Because Danny Ryan wants to talk about boogeyman and what it means to cops, individual cops. When the day that you saw the devil, here Jim Gordon's just kind of pissed off because he's got to leave Chicago now because for him doing the right thing, everybody hates his guts. And here you have Danny Ryan, drunk old fat ass Danny Ryan. Let me tell you about the day I saw the devil eating the faces of the seven. Jim Gordon's reaction. Why the hell are you telling me this? I'm like, that's exactly what I'd be saying at this point in time. Like, why do I drink here?
Do you believe in evil? I guess. It's like, ooh, I remember being young like you. You're so young.
And there's evil, Jim. And when you see evil, you aim for the head.
And it's kind of the deal where we find out this guy ends up killing himself. Yeah. And he is trying desperately. He never did end up finding any other things with it.
Yeah, he never found the man who was eating the girl's face in front of him.
He missed his deal.
Exactly. He didn't kill his boogeyman, the thing that you see when you close your eyes at night. And this whole thing is like, yes, you see shit like that, no matter who you are, I think you're probably going to kill yourself in the long run.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that, this ties in a lot more by the end because when you get the setup of, hey, we're going to give you tons of money there, Gordon, to do something you'd never do. I think that, you have to have something that also gets him in his heart, like the idea, I don't want to end up like that shit. And I love the idea. In my mind, you end up having him come up, hey, Gordon, did I ever tell you this story? No, Danny, you didn't. Why are you telling me? Because you're leaving. You're leaving town, and you won't look at me like an asshole later. So I just tell everybody who's leaving town.
Look at my fat
story
back
about
neck.
The devil. Look at me. Look at my drinker's nose. Like ha cha cha cha.
He's doing. He's like Santa Claus on Christmas. I tell them to go fuck themselves. That's our thing, Jimmy.
You know what they say? I'm like W.C. Fields, not because of my rosy nose, but I hate Philadelphia.
Because I look dead.
Yes. So Gordon goes off, and obviously he has seen the devils, Eric, and it is the Joker. And when he closes his eyes, he sees that.
Which is a cool way to bring us into the story. I dig the idea that Gordon does have this whole thing. Recently, I'd say it should be the Batman who laughs well, but he has way more of a connection with the Joker, and now he's even reeling with the aftermath of what they're calling A-Day, with the Joker gassing out all of Arkham Asylum and stuff like that. There's like 500 people died in here. I'm like, I wonder how many people the Suicide Squad killed and is getting blamed on the Joker right now. But the idea and thing is, even with that, Bane is dead, but they won't let Gordon see the body. I'm like, yeah, really? Why should they? You're not even part of the Force anymore. But this whole thing is, this is the start, Jim. The start of the Bane-litos in Little Santa Prisca, where they put up flags and murals for Bane because he is a symbol of strength. I'm like, here we go, the Bane-litos.
He just ripped apart the city a month ago. I mean, really, they end up, I'm telling you, just the idea of having these Bane memorials and things like that, there'd be other people, like, people would get together to go and take down these assholes. Like, look at them.
Come into my
because he
neighborhood,
just destroyed the whole deal. And he destroyed everything there. Like, he would care.
Yeah, the Joker did. Bane took good care of us.
Bane, Bane ended up getting all these other assholes as cops and going around and slicing people for walking dogs.
I like to think, he kept them out of Little Santa Prisca.
Well, I'd like to think that, but who knows? But yeah, you end up with all that. Then you even have mentioned this week a Bat Burger in, I believe, the Batman Urban Legends. I'm like, we just won't let these things go down. But you do end up with also a mention, and a mention here is that they do think that Jonathan Crane is dead. That was something that I was told after last week. Yeah, I ended up having somebody like, hey, I was listening, and by the way, the books are going to point out that they think he's dead. And and Jeremiah Arkham and stuff like that. So that's kind of a cool deal.
Do they also think the Professor Pig is dead? Because I saw his ass in Arkham. I'm wondering who they think is dead. I actually want to have a larger, picture sheet that we have for a panel to see who they think is dead.
Bam Bam Bigelow, he's alive, Eric. There,
no,
he's alive
not.
and well. So you end up though, and the art looks great. I really do like the art, especially the Bane.
I don't like the art for when we see who's there. Like they said, presumed dead, include Jeremiah Arkham, Jonathan Crane. I'm looking at these people like, I don't know who these people are.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in general. And the next thing you see that big mural of Bane, and that looks really cool. Looks like he's like juicing up there, right? It's a weird way to they ended up saying, can you pose for us? And he's like, no, I'm doing barbell curls right now. And they're like, we'll just take the barbell off, because that's what it looks like. He's about to do curls. But with all this going down, you still see that Gordon and Batman have a relationship, that they talk to each other. I don't know why Batman's wasting his breath. Gordon really can't do much. And we also find out that Harvey ended up resigning after the whole Joker war and stuff like that, which also makes sense, even with what we'll see going forward in the future.
The Joker war, when people
and he ended up saying
he throws his badge down, gets a bunch of other people to go and do the right thing.
I think that most people assume that they were just going to let him still be it, but I don't think that you can have a Harvey Bullock.
Assumed that too.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, if you end up having Harvey, it does throw a weird thing with Nakano and all this stuff that he's supposedly, you think he's going to start putting together. You're just going to be able to have it just push through without Gordon and Bullock and a lot of people involved.
Now, it is
anyway.
Crazy that apparently this whole thing where Nakano is trying to find out who you want to get for the new commission and stuff like that, because this takes place before going to Renee Montoya and stuff, that they do have footage of the Joker leaving the asylum during his attack at the city last fall, kind of thing. So actually, that's the one. Nakano tells
it's last fall.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's 10 months before.
It's 10 months before, because they believe, and that's the thing. It's such a weird idea that we're pushing it, because you and I are talking about the idea that we think that somebody else, probably Simon Saint or whoever is working for him, set this off to make the city fearful. Maybe it was the Scarecrow then, even, because the idea of fear to push through the magistrate system. So, yeah, we have footage, we have photos of the Joker leaving the asylum 10 months ago.
But it's 10 months ago.
We think he probably put a timer up there to do this now. I'm like, it's pretty thin, Riggs.
Yeah, pretty thin. Also with the idea. And also, it's not really like the regular Joker toxin, because nobody laughs. It was quiet because they wanted more of a decimation, more of a killing deal, because nobody was laughing. So it hit everybody. So I think they're still pushing the idea. Yeah. And even at the end, when we actually do have the Joker and he's looking at, I'm thinking he's like, the fuck? Like, I didn't do this, the way he reacts to the paper. But if you're going to keep setting things up, and you have James Tynion writing this, obviously you want to set up, even more things in other books, and you get a bit more of what you kept telling me, Clown Hunter, because all these young kids and things are now going full out, like
it's
you punchline Clown Hunter deal, and
because you have the punchline stuff in the background, like free punchline, she's innocent and stuff like that. People wearing T-shirts, rocking the protest, rocking the vote and stuff like that. But the idea is, we are seeing the beginnings of not only the Banelitos, Jim, but the Joker's gang that we have in Batman Beyond, because everybody's emulating the Joker and stuff like that. I'm like, you dumb motherfuckers, Clown Hunters in town. Don't do this
Seriously.
now.
We saw him on top of some big fat clown guy last week. I'm like, he's not. But again, it's like, killing's his business, and business is going to be good. You need something for that Clown Hunter to do. And I think that that's one of, you can say it makes sense. Again, it's pushing, but people who were like, oh man, I love that chaos. And they could go with the Joker stuff. That gives Clown Hunter something to do.
Yeah, people are always going to be jerks.
Yeah, and I really like a lot of this, and I like where you do see, and it's played out a little it's not like, it makes me not think of it as like real, but really the things that Jim keeps saying, well, you end up seeing the Killing Joke Joker, there, and he sees him in the mirror and stuff. And it does,
he sees him
this
everywhere.
Is something that is, and it's hounding him. He sees it everywhere.
He goes to
the point where he might still be infected with that nonsense, or he just ends up being insane. He needs to go to a therapist here, but he's going to maybe get a cathartic thing to go and
all he needs to do is put a bullet hole in a clown's head.
Yeah. And when you end up
my God, after this issue, has Jim Gordon become the Clown Hunter?
He might be. He is the clown. Maybe he actually gets the clown hunter with him, Eric. Maybe he'll have a sidekick. But you end up where he does go to the grave, Jim Gordon Jr. He's crying. And this is the thing.
Boy.
He can sit there. He's seeing the Joker all around. What the fuck? Just blame him. You know that one of the main reasons that this happened is because of Jim Gordon himself. At one point in the whole Batman Who Laughs miniseries, Jim Gordon Jr. is pleading with his father to help him. Please, I have changed. Please help me.
Away from me. You're always just going to be a psycho, evil piece of shit.
So you're in Gotham.
I'm paraphrasing.
Who else do you blame? You either blame Batman or the Joker. Either one of the two. So the Joker. That's what I go with. That he is so.
I blame it on the rain.
So did Milli Vanilli until they got found out. So you end up where he's seeing the Joker so much that I can go with the idea that he is just starting to get obsessed with the idea that the Joker ruined everything, Barbara. And then, and Jim Gordon Jr., like, how did he do that? I don't know. He probably did. It's like one of those things when you hit
he's not blaming all his problems on Batgirl anymore.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's like when I smack my kids and they're like, what is that for? I'm like, that's for the 5 things that I didn't see. That's why he's blaming the Joker, right? Yeah, really. I'm like, Superman. Let's play pine cones. And that's what I do. I end up being so mean to them. And then we play pine cones, Eric, and then everything's fine. But yeah, he's upset. Even at the grave, he sees that crazy, crazy looking Joker. But also maybe a little bit of the Batman Who Laughs. I don't know, Eric. But you go with this and he gets a benefactor that comes to him. And I don't know. I found this, like, of all the things, I found this, I can only think he might be really drunk at the time because this does not feel like anything that Gordon would get involved with even from the start. Somebody pulling up in a limo, hey, get in, it's about the Joker. I think he'd be like, fuck you, and would go home.
Well, he's got that gigantic monster man behind him. You don't want to say no to somebody like that behind you.
I don't know. Jim Gordon's a tough dude, right? But
it's a funny thing because there's a mysterious woman. Eric. I know, it's the thing is I thought the same thing, but the idea is we have a random woman just kind of pulls up, say, Jim Gordon, I need you to get in the car. We're going to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. We go to a random mansion. The whole idea is this is a home of a friend of the family and stuff like that. Yeah. And they want to pay you a lot of money to go and, kill the Joker. Well, what do I call you? You can call me Cressida. Well, what do I call him? You don't call him anything. Yeah. But when I saw the name Cressida, it made me think this is why I ended up reading all that goddamn House of Mystery, which was fine for the most part, but it kind of fell apart by the end of that series.
Deal.
But the idea is, there was a waitress who worked at the House of Mystery when she was stuck there in that series from 2008. It's a Vertigo series, so there's titties and F-bombs all over the place.
Oh, my.
But the whole thing is, this character, Cressida, her whole shtick was people who fell in love with her would either turn out to be monsters or then be killed by monsters. But even when they were monsters, other people would kill them. They would always be dead and always be around the monster. So when you have this character who's surrounding her right there, it looks like a gigantic Frankenstein monster to me, some kind of zombie monster man. So I'm like, could this be this character? I am not thinking. I'm thinking at the end of my whole experience of the House of Mystery that is not the case. But I'm also thinking that this might be Bane for whatever reason because it's the size of this monster man is with Cressida, and that was the character
Zombie
name. So
Bane.
I went with the whole thing. And that's again,
does look like Zombie
Bane is a monster, and that's like he's with her. She's in this. I'm telling you, this whole idea that I was telling you where I wanted the story to go because I thought it was very interesting. Not only Jim Gordon going to try to kill the Joker, which I find is fine to begin with, but if for whatever reason you had the House of Mystery backing Jim Gordon for this murder because Kane himself is tired of hearing stories. The original murderer is tired of hearing stories about a guy who's more profound in murder than he is, that he's willing to kill it. Like the House of Mystery is fueled and lives off tales and stories. He's tired of hearing these stories inside of his house or something along these lines where he wants to kill it, end the stories once and for all, so he can go back to telling his stories, something along these lines. So he sends Cressida, who by the end of that series was not a part of the House of Mystery anymore, but it's a brand new Infinite Frontier. New things are changing, doing different things for the multiverse. This could be along those lines, but I'm not holding my breath for this, whatever it is.
I think this is Bane, though. I really do think that is Bane.
The thing is, when they're pushing the idea to things like, I asked the coroner if I can inspect the body. He told me no. I'm like, it's because the body's not there, Jim. Cressida has the body, and now he's a chauffeur and muscle.
He's got the H-style going, Roy. But even with that, like you said, it was something where, just think of that. I asked to see the body of Bane. What the fuck are they going to be able to, why would they do that? It didn't make sense in that whole thing because he's not involved anymore. So why would he be able, and then that's why it feels like, that was forced so that there was a body to get to this, to have him there as the Invisible Man. Now, one of the things that I want to tell Cressida that she has to watch out for.
I think he looks like Andre Toulon from Puppet Master 2 after he came back from the dead.
I agree. Eric. Scarf and all ends up there. Was that with the wooden ones, with the originals?
He was essentially just dressed up like the Invisible Man, though.
Oh,
that was 2.
Okay. No, I'm saying, was it 5 when they had the wooden ones, the original ones that came back?
Yeah, that was 7.
Okay. So you end up with Cressida, and she has to watch her negotiations. This is something that actually played out in Saga when I ended up doing that series last month as the book of the month, where you can't just give somebody a job and say, I'm going to give you a credit card that is unlimited for all time, because it does not get them inspired to solve shit. You could end up living off that. You never have to be inspired to do much of anything except maybe get the $25 million after you do it, but you could kind of run that up anyway. But she does, and Gordon's a good guy. And I think that she ends up, and like I said, Gordon is not into it, but you can tell he is. And it just, there's that slight bit to me where I do like this. And I think I do like it more than you. It just seems like Gordon's too quick to just with the idea of money and retiring. Well,
it's not only that, because he has nothing at this point in time.
Yeah,
everything he knows has been taken away from him either by the Joker or the Batman Who Laughs, or in his mind, just the Joker. So now here he is. He has no job, no aspirations. Harvey Bullock, of all people, wants him to go and be a private dick with him.
That would be cool.
And the whole thing is, so it's like, well, I can take care of my own personal demons, my own personal boogeyman by shooting him in the head, just like Danny Ryan told me to do 20 years ago. Or I could just become an old man and die. And that's the whole thing. It's like, I can go off and fight the worst evil there is.
Which he could have anyway, maybe.
And be a millionaire.
You know what I mean? I mean, he's there now. Also, this goes full against what Batman would be into, and he's still hanging with Batman.
He's in Belize.
Yeah, he has that, but he hasn't really been looking into it. He's just been looking in the mirrors and seeing the Killing Joke Joker. So the idea of, okay, you get to do what you want to do, and we'll give you tons of money is fine, but I don't think that Gordon would have done this just by himself. It just seems, oh, well, I get money as well. All right. And yeah, you get unlimited resources that he might not have to go and do that also. But it just by the end, at least at this point, doesn't feel quite like Gordon would agree. I think Gordon is one of those guys, like you said, he knew that if he turned in those bad cops in Chicago, shit was going to go wrong, and ends up getting sent to Gotham. Maybe this is the, fuck it, I'm doing something for myself.
That's the thing is, because, this is where we're saying that it's going, but even this whole thing, it's like, so you want me just to capture him and bring him back to Gotham for $25 million? And Cressida looks at him, no, Mr. Gordon, I'm sorry, you misunderstand. If we just wanted you to place a bounty on the Joker, we would have coordinated with the authorities. We want you to kill him. Yeah. And he just said, what? Yeah. I was a police commissioner of Gotham City. I'm not some kind of hitman. It's like this. We believe your personal connections to the Joker and your experiences. Like, she almost talks him in, even when she harkens back to what Danny Ryan told him so many years ago. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in evil, Jim? And it really just sits there, like it strikes a nerve with him. There's a gong inside of his head.
He doesn't want to really end up.
Makes his, his mouth go dry. Yes, I do.
Yeah. And he does, I think that he does realize, like, I don't want to end up like that. Like, this is just going to keep eating. But it's funny. It's like, hey, what do you want me to be, a hitman? No, we would hire a hitman if we wanted that. We want you to kill him like a hitman. Because really, they just want, it's one of those things of, you bring him back, but he's supposed to go kill him. I think Deathstroke would be able to do this. Obviously, there's more to this that Cressida is involved with and stuff. And that's what I think is the interesting part of that. This tangled deal of, well, we just put a bounty on him. Well, that's what you're kind of doing. But you want to see what Gordon does and see how this works out. It feels like a
Twilight Zone episode that I saw years ago where the whole idea is this, this really not well-to-do family. Like, they live in a really shithole apartment. It might be even my apartment, but they don't like each other. It might be me is what I'm saying, but they have a button that's delivered to their home right at their, door. And the whole idea they find out is like, you can, take this key, put it in this lock here. It opens up the little bubble over this button, and you can push the button. If you do, you get $250,000, but somebody you don't know will die. Do you push the button, or don't you push the button for the money?
If I push it twice, do I get twice the money? Or can I just keep pushing?
You can only push it once.
Fuck it. I'd be pushing that button. I don't care.
That's
I don't
the
care
thing.
about anybody.
And then it's me. You're in the Twilight. No, it's somebody you don't know. They guarantee you it's not going to be anybody you know.
I don't really know you, Eric. I don't even know where you live.
But the Twilight Zone freaking just desserts ending, like you always have in a situation like this that's presented to Jim Gordon here, is that the guy comes to give the money, take back the button.
It was
he says, I'm going to give it to somebody who doesn't know you.
But there's so many people, Eric.
If they push the button, it's going to be her.
I'm just going to start spending that money. With that, though, you could get the idea, like we said with Bane, that he just wants revenge because he does think the Joker killed him. And, was brought back or almost tried to kill him, at least with that whole attack. And you end up having all that, and maybe that's even his plan. He needs the Banelitos for that one panel in Future State. Never got back to that. But just looking where
his entire mouth that we saw was all grotesquely opened up, tongue sticking out, is all wrapped up in a big old scarf. He's got a big old fedora hat and goggles. Yeah. Like, this is a man who wants to hide who he is because he's horribly deformed.
Yeah, and I think that maybe, again, if he is a dead Bane, he wants revenge on the Joker, or he wants to figure out who really did it and knows that Gordon might end up figuring out stuff, not just going and like, I think that the idea we would just put a bounty if we wanted him dead isn't just that they want him dead. I think that they're really counting on Gordon going and figuring out some things. And,
that's the thing,
was it really him or not?
Evil by ruining a good man? Who knows?
Yeah, or they're playing a game with that. But I actually think that they're counting on him looking into things a little more as we go, as the Joker probably
even
keeps
if you
a couple
want to go
steps
with my
ahead.
idea, my weird, far out, I got to ask James Tynion. Do you think he'd ever get back to me if I asked him about the House of Mystery and Kane? But the idea of where not only
he's a big Dark Universe fan, so that might be something that he would.
Is we destroy the Joker to stop those stories, but what kind of story do we have here now, where we destroyed a good man to see how far we could push him to go over the edge to make a good man go bad? Yeah. That's a hell of a story.
Yeah, and they know. Yeah, and they know where he went. Like you said, they can get him the plane there. You end up seeing the Joker's already killing. He's in Belize with a few days to kill Eric, and then looks like Marty Feldman at the end. Ooh, look at his eyes going. It cracks me up. But he even thinks like, he's not just saying like, oh my God, that wasn't me or whatever. He's just seeing this and like, what? This is about to get interesting, isn't it?
That's a thing too, where he's looking at the newspaper, the Gotham Gazette, about the Joker's last laugh, the A-Day, Arkham Asylum destroyed. It's like, oh, this is about to get very interesting, isn't it? And laughing. And I think in your mind, at least to me, it points out, the Jokers didn't do this.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they're giving him credit for something.
But also in my mind, like him, like he's like, it's about, and he has this classic laugh. I think he'd find this hilarious. So like, oh my God, somebody's fucking all this stuff.
I kind of think that he would be pissed off.
Well, he may eventually after he gets less Marty Feldman. I mean, look at those eyes. They're cross-eyed, going all over the place. They look goofy. But yeah, he's murdered everybody in this place. And also while we were talking, I was looking and I magnified it a bit. I don't know if that's Bane. It might be 4 midgets with a trench coat, Eric. I'm not sure.
So always a possibility.
We shall see. But I liked it, and we end up going with the punchline deal. It doesn't do much at all.
And again,
to me,
like
it's
the rest
just
of the stuff that we're dealing
reminder.
With, it's catch-up to let you know Punchline's still in jail. She's on trial. There's a big thing. We have Dr. Leslie Tompkins involved, and we have Harper Row involved, and now she needs her to get Bluebird involved. And pretty much it's a whole big catch-up for this whole idea of what we're doing to make sure that she stays in jail. But the new stuff is Punchline pretty much being in Blackgate Penitentiary and being, attacked by the biggest, baddest broad in this place. And she has to go and punch her in the face a few times to prove her superiority.
Yeah. You end up where Punchline's there and goes and like, hey, what's this? Here, well, I'm the queen. I'm the queen and you gotta, deal with me. And you think that the Joker and all that stuff does things and I'm the one who's in control. I'm here. All right, punchy right in the face. Punchline, Eric. And I just, I didn't need that, and
actually,
I don't know.
One thing I was thinking about too, and it actually kind of upset me, the idea of the connection that she has to the Royal Flush Gang. Where I was thinking to myself before I even read this, like, I'd really like to see the Royal Flush Gang back, but not just Ace, this Ace character where she's some green-haired broad in a cell getting punched in the face by Punchline. I'm like, he just ruining everybody. Harley Quinn, that Royal Flush Gang. What's wrong with you?
And the Queen of Spades, she got it. Like, all right, what is she going to fight me for the ramen? They're talking street flavors, Eric, and that's what they're talking about. Even with that, it seems like Tynion is already realizing, with this whole 2 months off with Future State, stuff like that, people might be starting to dim on the Punchline love, and let's get that in there because people are going to buy a Joker solo book. And then especially like a guy like Rob Lewis, he actually read this, sent me a note. He hates the Joker. He's sick of him. He said, you know what? I kind of liked it because you kind of get that weird twist. Yeah. So you get a different angle with that, and that's what he likes. And so I think that this book will end up getting, a lot of people reading it, and then you're like, oh, yeah, Punchline. And then you go and you got Harper, you got Cullen, who's a real
It's so
jerk
funny
to
because,
his
yes, we
sister.
have Jim Gordon going off to go hunt the Joker, which we might get more Jokers as we go along. That's a good possibility in my mind for a Joker ongoing. But the biggest part of this where you get the Joker is the Joker's sidekick, Punchline, his doll baby at this point. There's more of a feature on her than the actual Joker in my mind here.
Yeah. So we end up having all that put together for this deal. What did you give it?
House of Mystery, Jim.
House of Mystery. It is a lot of mysteries.
I ended up giving this a 7 out of 10. I thought the art was good all the way through, especially for the way the style was for the two different stories. I thought they actually worked very well for what they were doing to the, two different styles of storytelling. And the thing is, while I didn't like all the catch up to get us all on board with Jim Gordon and his woes and what he's been up to, it's something you need to do. I just wish it was done in a little bit different way. But ultimately, I find this way more entertaining than I ultimately did going in thinking it was just a straight up Joker book. So that's kudos to that, but I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I'm going 7-8. I would have actually gone 8 if, like you said, there's a bit too much. But this is the problem: is you are writing a Joker book that people are going to get this that aren't even reading anything that happened in the recent past. Like, it's a big deal, a Joker book. So I think that they probably said you got to catch up, and I thought that the catch up was good to get to the point where you see how desperate and how much Gordon is.
You're telling me these
effective.
same people didn't get the Joker War tie-in with Batgirl. Continue reading
I'm
Batgirl
saying
to
there
see
are
the
people
death
who don't
of James
read.
Gordon Jr.
No, I'm saying there are people who don't read DC Comics that'll probably grab this book, just saying, I'll grab the Joker book and stuff like that. And a lot of people who, might not even care about Batman might try to get this, even if you're going to tie it in, the movies and stuff like that and whatnot. But yeah, I think that a lot of people, even with Joker War, this is more than just that. To try to tie it in with why he'd be pissed and stuff like that. I mean, really, like we said, you end up really having a lot of this stuff has to do with when he was infected as the commissioner, and they don't go with that because I think that's too. I think that's too much. Then you have to really go into
Secret Six during the whole infected stuff. We didn't really do much with the commissioner being infected.
No, I'm just saying, but that's where he ended up getting.
He was in a cell being fed by individual superheroes one after another each day.
Just imagine, though, a lot of people would jump in here would have no idea. Even Joker War deal would have no idea why he isn't on the force anymore. I think that most people reading this who haven't been reading will think he's just
really
retired.
Well, here
you know what I mean? I just think they just think he's retired and going, and he's going to end up old, and he's never going to get back at the Joker, and it's going to drive him insane.
Didn't we really deal more with the whole idea? Like, didn't he go to some city lockup, go steal a bunch of weapons for the Batman Who Laughs and the rest of the Secret Six?
Yeah, he should be in jail.
Yeah, I understand he's infected. How do you really say that? Like, who is his lawyer who went to the freaking stand and said, "Yes, my client was infected by the Batman Who Laughs from the Dark Multiverse, Your Honor. He is pleading innocent."
I mean, you could have ended up having this if you were going to tie some things. He could be completely on the run, and they come to him and say, you have nowhere to go. You are going to be, and you do this, you get money to disappear.
It's almost like
you
the
can
idea
go off.
of John. It's like you set up a situation, but you're not willing to go full out with it, and you just kind of sweep bits of it under the rug, and let's just move on.
And that's the thing with that. You have this recap and stuff going. I'm like, ooh, they're really, skirting the issue that this guy should have been one of the most wanted criminals on the planet. That's a little more than just losing your job as commissioner.
Think he still has that stupid mask?
Probably. He probably wears it at night. Maybe
he's going to wear it when he hunts the Joker?
That'd be crazy. That would be really crazy.
Here.
The only thing that I wish, though, is I wish that him and Bullock would have decided to be private dicks.
I want them to be private eyes.
I just want them to get. This is the case. Oh, man, she walked into our... And the first case is what? And Bullock's like, what did we get into? And then
you want Gotham City Dicks to be a title where they just sit there and have noir storytelling.
I just want them to go off and hunt the Joker together. I'd like to have somebody else with... the deal, and we may even get it. Maybe that's a setup so that we know that Bullock's doing nothing.
This is some funding money that he's going to get from killing the Joker.
I mean, I'm telling you, though. No, I'm saying that you end up pointing out that thing with Bullock. Yeah, is that to show he's not commissioner? But you said we already should have known that. But the idea that he doesn't have shit to do, and now you're going, I say, he's like, can I have a sidekick? And now Bullock's with him, and they go off together to get the Jokers. But yes, that'd be kind of funny. Just Bullock would be the worst. I want to see Bullock just normal Bullock, just being a piece of shit. Like now he doesn't have to care about anything. It'd be kind of cool. But yeah, the idea too is what is Batman going to say about this? Is he going to find out? Is he going to end up?
Shit.
They end up where if he finds out that Gordon's off to kill. But the thing is, the really good tie-in
about the end. It's fine.
Yeah, the really good thing by the end, though, is you even see that Cressida has stuff that Batman doesn't even have, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm going to go 7-8, and yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to the next deal, and I want to hopefully get a little more of that Punchline backup nonsense. They better, extend that.
That and Bibbo.
That was not Bibbo. I just want to disappear. We love Bibbo, and now I don't. Like, you
just
idiot.
Come back to the Ace of Clubs, dude. Come on.
Fog is coming off of the lady that you're supposedly dating. I mean, what's going on?
Get pissed off if you hear somebody say something bad about Superman, or at least you think they did, even if they didn't. That's all I need from you, Bibbo.
You know what? That is even a thing there where instead of that, you have, this smoking hot, and I'm saying smoking because there's fog coming off her, date.
Projectress.
Hey there, ladies, you want to date me? Oh, I'm going to get you. Oh, my, I said to Jimmy's that I wouldn't get upset. And then he throws popcorn against his head. And I love the idea. It's like, hey, you, security. It's like a 10-year-old kid. He's like,
I'm an usher.
I just show people to their seats. Oh, shit. Looks like it's Bibbo time. I'm ready to beat the shit out of this guy. Oh, my goodness. Really, our plan is coming together. I mean, that's the worst plan. What is this, the A-Team? Oh, my. But yeah, but overall, not horrible books. I mean, there's no 2 out of 10s, right?
It's true.
This past Marvel Spotlight, me and Brandon, we weren't liking shit. So this is a little bit of a pick-me-up, and I like both of the books that we'll be talking about this week. So hopefully you will as well.
I hope so.
As we go in, the Wonder Woman, it's a little bit of a jarring setup of what's going on, but I think it makes sense.
4 out of 10.
I just wonder if it is the same kind of thing that we had with Aquaman when Kelly Sue DeConnick jumped on, but this makes more sense for Wonder Woman than it did for
Jim,
Aquaman.
I need to know one thing more than anything else that's going to be happening in the future. Next week, are you going to be doing Batman versus Ra's al Ghul? Because apparently number 5 finally comes out.
Yeah, I don't even remember anything about that, but I might. I actually have been looking at it. I'm like, back
I just
again, my old friend.
Next week because I'm like, well,
I know
books
there's only 2 books. Yeah. Again, I think we have 4 regular books, and then that Ra's al Ghul nonsense. So, does Far Sector come out next week, or is that like a next?
I don't think
so. Because I've started seeing some previews for it.
Next week we have Catwoman, Justice League, Nightwing, and.
Something.
I think that's it.
Maybe. Oh my God, we don't have a lot coming out.
Batman versus Ra's al Ghul.
Batman versus Ra's al Ghul. I kind of remember some of the things. Maybe. I kind of remember like sandwiches being thrown shade at maybe at one point.
Superman
and then
Red and Blue?
That we have that as well. That's the other one. So we'll be dealing with that there as well. So yeah, we do have 4. And then the what's it called? The darn Ra's al Ghul nonsense, which made no sense. You have a machine in there that's doing stuff, I remember.
Look, I don't know what's going on. I just know that there's 3 Batman with numbers on their chest beating the shit out of each other while Shadow Man Ra's al Ghul is laughing in the background larger than life.
That sounds right. That tracks, as they say. I'm telling you. I'm sitting here thinking, and the problem is that Reggie made me read all that nonsense with the Ra's al Ghul. Then I ended up doing Batman Odyssey a bit by myself on the Patreon, so I don't even know what the hell. But I do remember the Bat family and not knowing if it's the Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is impersonating himself, but it's not.
Don't they have amnesia?
And there's like a power deal going, and I mean like electricity type thing that Ra's is involved with. Then they ended up finding Deadman, but they thought of his brother. I don't even know. It's so ridiculous. Yeah. No, Los Angeles.
The last issue came out February 12th, 2020.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Over a year ago.
Seriously. Holy moly. Yeah, I'll probably try to catch up if I don't lose my mind.
Try to catch
just so
up
we have
on a book.
Something that people would like. I'll put it. Here's
Nobody
the thing.
wants that.
I'm going to put it on the Patreon Spotlight poll. If it's picked, Eric, then I will catch up and read it, and I will do it.
The issue before that came out November 27th, 2019.
Me and you both, Eric. You just imagine how great that would be. The gang's back. We're going to be doing the Ra's al Ghuls.
Going to issue number 1. When did the first issue come out? September 4th, 2019.
Okay. 2019. Yeah, and here's the problem is
we're on issue 5 coming out.
It never was good. That's the problem. It always sucked. It was always bad. but in a laughing way, Eric, in a laughing
Look, the thing is,
way.
This is why I left it to you and Reggie. You guys sucked me in for that one because you said, look, it's Lex Luthor laughing at Darkseid. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll jump in. But the rest has been garbage nonstop. And the only reason we ever did any of it is because Reggie needed that nonsense in his life.
He did. He loved that nonsense in his life. And I remember, like, we would get on before recording, and I would be like, this is the worst fucking thing I've ever read. And Reggie would laugh. He'd laugh for 5 minutes straight.
I would
I'd have
feel
to stop him laughing.
defeated for the rest of the week from reading one Neil Adams book.
I would have to have, I'm like, Reggie, we're going to start. Stop laughing at me. And he'd just laugh. Laugh, he would. And he's like, oh my God. And then he would say, like, okay, let's go. And then at the last second, he'd go, but I think this is pretty good. And then I'd start laughing. And then I'd start crying. I'm like, you got to start reading better books, dude. I don't understand. Oh my God! I wanted to see now if we actually have this.
The balloons didn't make sense to each other.
No, they didn't. I'm going to see what the deal, because I do think that he would have reviewed the first issue at least. And I'm going back. What did he say? Maybe he didn't. Maybe there it is. Reggie gave the first one a 4. If you've read Neil Adams' most recent work, then you know the deal. Prepare to be delighted and confused. 4 out of 10.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Reggie. I think that he probably reviewed a couple of these.
Reggie.
And people were reviewing it. And he also got a real kick that it was selling well. The next issue, number 2, he gave a 3, a total mess of a comic book that should be observed more as a disaster in progress than it should be read. Masochist and dyed-in-the-wool coldest need only apply.
These things.
That was me and him. He would force me into it. I was so upset about it. I'm like, and then that would have been when he started having his problems, I believe. Yeah. Then after that, then that book disappeared from the site, I believe. If that's the case, I'm looking,
No, it just didn't disappear from the site, though. It disappeared from the newsstands. The freaking you couldn't buy the book because it didn't come out.
Issue number 3 ended up with an aggregate score of a 5.1. Only one person user review, which really speaks volumes just right there, and they gave it a 1. And
you had one issue of it come out last year, isn't that right?
Yeah. You had people giving it 2s.
Maybe 2.
Geek Dad gave it a 3. He said it was amusing, but completely falls short of narrative. Yeah. Well, I said,
I'm not reading this. I'm not doing it.
Come on. You want it. I'll put in the thing that
I don't.
If it ends up winning by over twice the amount, I'll have all these rules that'll make it so you have to read it. And then in the meantime, we'll also do the Green Lantern Season 2 finale that came out this week. It'll be a blast, Eric. It'll be great.
I don't know why you want me to kill myself. That's
I'll do it myself. I'll end up with the whole idea. I'll put it on the poll. If it is picked, I will catch up and read it, though I guarantee I still won't know what's going on, and maybe somebody will join me, Eric. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? I know that Rimmer, he got a kick out of all those, too. Maybe I can sit on him in. But with that, we are done this spotlight. We have a couple good books, like I said, coming up this weekend, which has me excited.
Neil Adams, what happened to you?
I got a little, that's the thing. I was just saying, I have a little bit of, a perk up deal here, and then Neil Adams has to come and spoil our parade. He has to come and shit in our Wheaties, and he's terrible is what happens. And you end up seeing, too, is the tale of the creative team of his that goes, because eventually it's now just him, because he's freaking told everybody else that because probably his kids at one point were working with him, probably said, Dad, you lost it. Let's go play Pinecone. Stop with your fucking this writing, because it's terrible. I love his art. Even though everybody is just over the top aggressive
I used to love
and
his art.
Out of control. Yeah, I know.
But I will tell you, though, if you got that out of the way, because the thing is, no, I haven't looked at it. I'm just looking at the cover, but it's still a Neil Adams cover. But you got Justice League next week. And the thing is, it could be good. It could really be good, but
could be.
It's also Bendis, and I don't have a greatest track record with doing Bendis books, especially now that he has all of these characters that I love for him to deal with and have no voice for any of them. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do that? You want to add 2 really bad reviews on here?
I'm saying, though, that if Batman versus Ra's al Ghul doesn't win, Yeah, I'm saying, or a sucker. I'm saying if it wins, I'll do it. And then it'll be on the spotlight, which would give us a couple more books. And with that, it will give us at least a Justice League or a Nightwing on the regular thing, because you know that if it's not that, those two are winning. And then we're stuck with a Catwoman, Superman Red and Blue podcast. I mean, really, he needed the money, Eric. That was a joke at the Blue. So maybe that is my evil plan. I'm loading it up now. Now that you're ended up, I'm going to check things out and see what's going down and all that, and see what the preview
Red and
is
Blue is an
of
anthology
this
book.
Yeah, yes,
Son of a
Eric. But yeah, I'm looking at this preview only has like 3 pages, and the one is a bunch of Batman with numbers on American cover, and then I see a dead man. No, nothing else. Oh well. That's what you get, Eric. That's what you get, and you don't get upset.
I also don't want a Superman anthology book.
Yeah.
With Marguerite Bernay writing one of them.
Oh, my goodness. Why not, Eric? She's a gem. But that's it for the end here. We'll go off now. We'll deal with that stuff next week with that nonsense. But I better start reading Neil Adams stuff again.
I better have a hunch that I have to spend an entire week reading a series that won't pan out.
Yeah. Are you talking about Justice League, Eric? I meant to hit a drum there. I don't know why dramatic piano came up, Eric. You like dramatic piano?
You're a failure.
Yeah, I am in life and in the sack, I've been told by Jess. All right, but that's it, Eric. What do we say? What do we say at the end?
Turn that spotlight off.
Edit that out.
Hello, motherfucker.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to that Spotlight. I hope you enjoyed it. Gives you a little idea of what we do on the Spotlight each and every week. And again, if you want to hear those Spotlights each and every week, plus listen to the exclusive episode 353, please head over to our Patreon. Check it out at patreon.com/weirdscience. Again, if you sign up for as little as $1, you will not get charged right away either. I didn't mention that at the beginning, but you won't be charged right away. You'll only be charged if you decide that you want to stick with it and head into the month of May. If you end up quitting before then, no fuss, no muss. You'll break my heart, but that's fine. But with that, you'll never be charged at all. So you can just go looking for a free trial through all of April, see everything that we do, see that if it is for you, and then carry on with it if you want to. But please check it out. That's all we ask. And that's that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And I will talk to you next week.